Well, either way, we're starting now. Welcome everyone to this event celebrating 3 years of ocean dialogue and enhanced blue economy cooperation between Norway and India. My name is Karina Asbjørnsen, and I'll guide you through the roundtable discussion today. We are very excited to celebrate with all of you and look forward to discussing how we can further strengthen our cooperation in the year ahead. Due to COVID-19 and the air pollution, we're doing a hybrid event today, so everyone say hi to our online friends as well. We are really excited to be here with our most important Indian and Norwegian partners and look forward to now first starting with some remarks from the ambassador and Mr. Ratan Vatal, who has been chairing the India-Norway Task Force on Blue Economy for Sustainable Development. Mr. Vatal has been a member secretary of the erstwhile Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister and is now chairman of the Central Vista Oversight Committee. Then we're going to move on to discussions, starting with interventions from Dr. M. Ravichandran, Secretary, Ministry of Earth Sciences. Then we will have Dr. Sunita Narayan, Director General, Center for Science and Environment. We will then have Mr. Atul Barman, Director and General Manager for Aker Biomarine in India. And then we invite for interventions from the other participants here at the embassy and questions from our partners watching online. Please, Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And just code protocol, please keep your mask on during the meeting, but take it off when you speak so we understand what we are saying. Norwegian and Indian accents muffled by a mask is difficult to get. Dear friends, welcome to this event to celebrate 3 years of Well, dear friends, welcome to this event celebrating 3 years of Norway-India ocean dialogue and cooperation for the blue economy. To you who are following the event online and those here at the embassy. Some of you might shake your head at the title of this event, because you know that Indo-Norwegian cooperations on fisheries and ocean research started early in the 1950s. And actually, it was the first Norwegian development cooperation project ever. As such, we can celebrate 70 years of working together for the blue economy. But this winter, it's been 3 years since our prime ministers met and decided that this would be the cornerstone of our bilateral relationship. The Ocean Dialogue and Task Force on Blue Economy for Sustainable Development was established. And since then, India-Norway cooperation has been elevated to a new level. And today we're celebrating that enhanced blue partnership. It is a partnership that is built on common interests and complementarity strengths. It is driven by demand from businesses, researchers, officials, and civil societies on both sides. And it's centered around our wish to grow our economies and create jobs in a sustainable way. In sum, it is a model for how two countries can cooperate in an equal and mutually beneficial manner. According to the high-level panel for sustainable ocean economy, which is co-chaired by the Norwegian Prime Minister, managing the ocean sustainably can add 12 million jobs by 2030. It can cut 1/5 of the CHE reductions needed to keep the world within 1.5 degrees warming, and ensure that we get 6 times more sustainable seafood from the ocean. India has a unique maritime position with its 7,517 kilometers long coastline and 2 million square kilometers exclusive economic zone, which is about 40% of the land mass, or even more, it's 60% of your land mass. As stated in your draft Blue Economy policy, developing the blue economy can contribute to India reaching its vision of becoming a $10 trillion economy by 2032. That is, of course, why the government of India's vision of New India by 2030 highlighted by the blue economy as one of the 10 core dimensions of growth. Likewise, for Norway, the cooperation with India is an opportunity to increase export from our ocean-related industries, enhance our scientific knowledge by cooperating with Indian world-leading scientists, and contribute towards achieving SDG 14 on life below water. Cooperating to manage our oceans better truly is a win-win effort. Dear friends, we have made great achievements over the last 3 years, and it is thanks to you who are present here physically and virtually. Mr. Wattal, you and your colleagues at the erstwhile Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister have been instrumental in shaping this cooperation. You saw the complementary strengths of Norway and India, and you gathered us in a task force so we could meet across ministries and institutions. The result has been 2 new joint initiatives and increased cooperation on shipbuilding, sustainable ship recycling, and green ports. I look forward to hearing your advice today on how we can strengthen the blue economy, the blue partnership further. Mr. Ravichandran, allow me to say that we're happy at the embassy when you were named as the new Secretary of Ministry of Earth Sciences. We have greatly appreciated the cooperation with NCPOR on Pole and Ocean Research, which you headed earlier, and look forward to working with you in your new role. Through the India-Norway Integrated Ocean Management and Research Initiative, we have started to collaborate on pilot marine spatial plans for Puducherry and Lakshadweep. This project is an excellent contribution to the UN Decade of Ocean Science. I think researchers and officials on both sides will learn a great deal from each other, contributing to better ocean management in our countries. Mr. Gupta, the Secretary of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, I want to thank you and the Ministry for our cooperation on marine pollution and circular economy. The India-Norway Marine Pollution Initiative was the first joint initiative started under the task force. Today, it is supporting 5 projects, piloting solutions on waste management, recycling, and community mobilization that can be scaled up all over India. I hope that going forward, Norway and India, as like-minded countries, can also cooperate more in international processes aiming to curb marine pollution globally. We greatly appreciate our relationship with your ministry and look forward to even closer cooperation now that physical interaction is possible again. Another guest who will come shortly, Additional Secretary in the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Mr. Sanjay Bandyopadhyaya, is also, he will join us later. Green shipping has become a key focus area. Norway has world-leading low-emission technology to offer. Due to the forward-looking policies of the government of India, India is becoming a very attractive market. Our Consul General and DG Shipping in Mumbai are working on a joint action plan for our work on low-emission vessels and green ports. India's accession to the Hong Kong Convention has also enabled more cooperation on sustainable ship recycling, which is important to both countries. To all representatives from our partner organizations, thank you for the excellent work you are doing in piloting innovative solutions and creating the knowledge we need for effective policy decisions. We are proud of the broad range of NGOs, research institutions, and international organizations participating in our joint initiatives. You are researching sources of pollution, demonstrating recycling models, building capacity, and informing policy. And you're building institutional linkages between Norway and India that will last longer than any project. Thank you for your contribution. And to all representatives of Norwegian and business interests present. Norwegian blue economy policy has always been centered on creating value and jobs while respecting nature. We believe utilizing resources in a sustainable manner is the best way of protecting them. There is increasing business-to-business cooperation in the maritime, marine, and energy sectors, and I'm excited to see more Norwegian low-emission ships being built in India, transferring innovating technology in the process. More Norwegian companies entering the Indian market with sustainable solutions for the aquaculture industry, plastic recycling, and sludge management. And more Indian companies investing in and buying Norwegian companies. I hope 2022 will bring increased trade and investment in both directions, growing our blue economies. Dear friends, I also hope that in 2022 we will see increased activity, including political visits and delegations traveling. The government of Norway has already extended an invitation to the Indian Minister of Ports, Shipping and Waterways. And in anticipation of the normalized 2022 with conferences and visits, we have made a new brochure about the Norway-India Blue Economy Cooperation. And you also see the logo here behind me. It describes all the excellent work we're doing together. The goal is to inform and including even more people in our efforts so that the Blue in Partnership can keep growing stronger. Dear friends, including you watching online, I wish we could have you all physically here today at the embassy. Unfortunately, the combination of COVID and air pollution is not allowing that yet. But I hope we can have a larger reception next year. I look forward now to our roundtable discussion. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. I would now like to invite Mr. Ratan Vartal to speak on what you think have been achieved over the last 3 years and what can be done to further political research and business-to-business cooperation between Norway and India. Thank you.
Ambassador Freimulen, you will recall that we had written jointly in a newspaper during the COVID pandemic, an article which came out in the Hindustan Times, where So I just wanted us to recall, or you to recall, that we had written jointly about the need for partnership that had emerged during the COVID pandemic across countries, where we had to transcend boundaries in order to solve global challenges. In fact, we are still in the process of doing that. And I don't think we found all the solutions that the World Committee needs. But this fact also showed that one of the areas where we needed partnerships were also in the area of oceans. And that's something which I'm so happy that for the last 3 years we've been working with with our Norwegian friends. And today, while we sit here, I think from my side, I'd like to proudly reaffirm this partnership between India and Norway. Again, in this interconnected world, during the COP26, which was held in the climate conference in Glasgow, Prime Minister Mr. Modi, he presented a national 5-point agenda, which some of you might be aware of, which is basically to counter global warming and climate change. Now, this too, if you see, is linked with the ways we will use our ocean resources. I mean, whether it is in Norway or whether it's here. Well, something which comes to my mind straight away, and my friend Dr. Ravi Chandran is here. We need, and it's an ongoing process, we need to have a shared understanding of the Arctic through observation, through research, through capacity building, through cooperation. Because we may be far, but our climates are closely linked. And I think that has been the old relationship which Ambassador mentioned, which goes back to actually when this country was formed in the 50s until today, where the engagement has been more enhanced. It was really a partnership of science, but it was really focused on climate. And I think this Glasgow summit has brought that again into focus, and it's something which we should look at also in our, as we go along in our bilateral relationship. Now, in this context, I must really say that India and Norway Ocean Dialogue and the Task Force on the Blue Economy has proved to be a very successful template of bilateral cooperation. I have served in, sector ministries and also in the Ministry of External Affairs. Sometimes these bilateral relationships are signed, MOUs are signed, you forget about them, then somebody comes again and, the whole system wakes up and then they decide what has to be done. But I think in this case, right through these 3 years, in our own way, there was a lot of synergy and things were being achieved, and they have been highlighted by Ambassador. And we all know that things were happening. And I personally feel that I have been a proud sort of a passenger in this 3-year journey since 2019. And I'm here with you to celebrate this event. Now, one of the things I must tell you that we learned from this partnership, one of the spin-offs, was actually our draft policy on the blue economy, which is being and I'm sure you will speak about it. It has already been referred to. It's a draft policy paper which has gone to the government, and they're looking at it. And as has been mentioned, and to put it, I won't go into kilometers and miles, but actually the economic zone, EZ or EZ, whatever you may use, is actually the size of Peninsular India. When you said 60%, if you knock off the Himalayan or the upper side, if you see the lower triangle, I think that's the amount of space which is lying under the sea. It is a huge resource. It's in the sea, it is in the land under the sea. It is the energy in the waves of the sea, it is fossil resources, non-fossil resources. And it provides us an opportunity and a challenge that how do we use these resources for the good of everybody without really hurting the ocean, or in a sustainable manner, of course. And there, I think, with your long experience in handling ocean management, which you have a long history, I think this draft policy which came out was actually something which was inspired out of this dialogue with the relationship. And I think it's a very significant achievement that we have made. Apart from these bilateral things which we were doing together, whether it was in Bombay or in other places, which are also very significant. The other thing which I just wanted to mention is that this relationship in 3 years has, though we talk of 50 years or things started back in the 1950s, 70 years, but this relationship got strengthened in a very short time within these 3 years. And this was because of the concrete visions of our prime ministers, who empowered and inspired us on both sides on a broad spectrum of images, of subjects and issues that were mentioned by you. Now, there are, I think, 2 things which I was talking to Atul Bagai about this also, which perhaps could be looked at in the coming years. It could be, need not necessarily be part of the immediate agenda. I think which flows out of the COP and others is, and I'm glad that the Ministry of Environment and Forests is involved with it, and also the shipping. Number 1 is the circular economy and the what they call the resource efficiency issues. Already a lot of work has been done in this area, and I think you have also probably done a lot of work in this area. It is perhaps connected with the sea in some way. Everything gets connected with water eventually. Even if we talk of the ocean, you have to think of where the water comes from. You have to think of inland resources, inland things. They dirty up the oceans. So I think this RE policy is another area where a lot of work has been done by within government, outside government, in think tanks like TERI, etc. And I think the Ministry of Environment has also come up with a draft policy on circular economy and the RE. I think this is an area which I think on all sides we should look at, because it's actually closely aligned with the blue economy kind of thing which we've already worked on. Shipping is an area which is a huge industry. He'll be coming also, where bilaterally a lot of work has been done, but I think in many ways, whether it's fisheries, whether it is just ports, or whether it's management of ports, or this is another field where I think the relationship has to be strengthened further. I mean, a lot of work has been done, I know, in this area, but it can move forward. I mean, of course, we had about 6 areas which we were already looking at in the context of this bilateral or this forum or this task force. It was integrated ocean management, healthy oceans, clean oceans, ocean research, which is your area, the maritime sector, whether it was mariculture and these other areas on which a lot of work has been done, on which Norway has done fantastic work. The energy sector, which I think again has to be looked at. We are looking at climate issues because the sea is a huge resource for renewable resources. I mean, apart from fossil-based fuels, gas, and etc., I think there are other ways we can extract energy from the sea. So the joint initiatives on marine pollution, I think, have been very useful, especially to support efforts to prevent pollution from both land-based and offshore activities, especially plastics. I think there have been very nice initiatives that both sides have taken. And as I mentioned, that India and Norway have been involved in polar research, which is, we have a number of highly relevant existing and fruitful collaborations. Then there are other areas where we have made headway, which are there in this brochure. It's basically about electric research vessel, which was used as a pilot, then ballast water testing, pilots on electric ferries. I mean, these are all, again, linked, as you see, with not only water, but with climate change issues. And I think the other thing which we could follow strongly is twinning of ports, twin port, if we can have some arrangements, because you have such strong management systems in place. And I must thank you again. We had sent a team of about 5 or 6 people along with Sumita Mishra, who had taken them along, who had visited Norway and visited some of these sites, and a lot of stuff came out of that. I mean, these are just some things which I name in passing. These are things which are actually being done on ground, but what I really feel is that like we benefited in making this blue economy thing, I think in honing a policy on circular economy or climate change related issues, there I think also we can learn a lot. So all I can say in conclusion is that the partnership will continue to grow, even though we may move on as individuals. Actually, as of yesterday, I have actually taken on a new responsibility, which is connected more with city planning and urban regeneration. I'm the chairman of something called the Oversight Committee for the Central Vista. It's a program which is being done in the capital part of the city. But Mr. Ambassador, the blue economy will be a subject that I will continue to remain engaged with. But perhaps maybe in a different capacity, maybe, I don't know, because the MEA has to be involved, I don't know. I mean, I'm sitting here with you. Let us see, but as I said, it's something which is I feel very passionately about. And of course, I cherish my relationship with you always. You've been a good friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for those remarks. Now we will move to Secretary Ravi Chandran. The Ministry of Earth Sciences is a key partner for Norway, and our cooperation has been strengthened recently, as mentioned by the Ambassador, through the Integrated Ocean Management and Research Initiative. So now we look forward to hearing from you. What do you think we have achieved so far, and how do you see the cooperation going forwards? Thank you.
Okay. Respected Ambassador, Mr. Vettel, Dr. Sunita Narayanan, and all other friends from here and also virtually from Norway. Very good evening to all of you. First of all, I would like to say that when you are talking about Indo-Norwegian collaboration, of course, my journey also started with the Indo-Norwegian collaboration. I think way back in 1997, maybe most of the people may not be knowing. Actually, 97, it is started that first India, first of all, we want to understand the ocean. We need to have a proper observations. That is more important. So we needed data. Unfortunately, we don't have any data that time. So first time in 97, the NORAD program has started the first time moved data buoy program in entire Indian coastal waters as well as offshore. So that has been started in 97. 12 data buoy has been deployed. So that is provided the vital information for, you name it, cyclone or monsoon, for everything. So observation we started with the Norwegian collaboration. Of course, later on we moved to, okay, now we have observation, we have data, so we have to understand. So then we have a strong linkage with, I also moved along with another place. So we started working on research. Research in the ocean area. So for that, how to use the data and how to make use of the data, both in terms of understanding the ocean as well as the predicting the ocean. We started that. So there we started first time we developing the model. So then we started collaborating with many of the Norwegian institutions to develop the ocean model. Then we started building the prediction of the ocean. So first we started with observation, understanding, then modeling, then prediction. So slowly we have evolved over the time. I also moved that journey. Then later on we moved, now we moved from, okay, Indian Ocean is there. Now we move to Arctic. Then Arctic we have a very good collaboration, and we had a very good partnership with Norway, especially they helped a lot in our most of the research and all other activities what we are doing. Without Norwegian help, we would have not been put observation and other things. So that building cooperation, again, it has, maybe this is last few years, that building and cooperation has strengthened. Okay, why don't we start in Antarctic too? Then from last 3 years back, we moved to Antarctic. So we have collaboration from north in the Arctic, in the Indian Ocean, in the center tropics, and in the south, in the Antarctic. So at today, I think both Norwegian as well as Indian team are reaching Antarctica. Today they have reached. And of course, last 3 years, our partnership between India and Norway has provoked many other countries, and 5 countries have want to join in the same group. But this year we have taken only UK. So this year, UK, India, Norway, together we are going for Antarctic, mainly to see the climate change impact and try to recover 500-meter ice core in Antarctica. So that's our target. So now this year, where we need to do the drilling and what information we will get it. That's we are planning. So now this year, maybe mainly they are going for survey and other work. So these are the many building has been happened in the both India as well as Norway in entire, maybe in the global scale. Of course, you all know that now next coming decade is decade of the ocean. Of course, we are looking for mainly the main objective is we want to have a clean ocean, healthy and resilient ocean, and predicted ocean, and also productive ocean, and safe and accessible ocean, and finally inspiring and engaging ocean. So this is 10 themes are planned in the next decade of the ocean. Of course, it is not India's, it is a global endeavor. And in that we want to contribute whatever the way, both in terms of research and other area. As pointed out by earlier, I think Ambassador, about blue economy, the Government of India's vision of New India by 2030, I think enunciated this blue economy as one of the 10 core dimensions of the growth. So mainly focusing on national accounting framework for the blue economy and ocean governance, and of course coastal marine spatial planning and tourism, and marine fisheries, aquaculture, and fish processing, manufacturing, emerging industries, trade, technology, services, and many other developmental things, and logistic, infrastructure, shipping, and also coastal and deep sea resources, both living as well as non-living, and finally security and also international engagement and the strategic dimension. So these are the packets of blue economy. So we would like to work with Norway in all these area bilaterally or maybe with the many other group. Of course, ocean is very important because many people knows that every breath what we are doing, alternative breath comes from the ocean. And all, but at the same time we are dumping the other side, carbon dioxide, half of the things, 50 times of the atmospheric carbon dioxide, more than that it is in the ocean. So we have to be safeguard the ocean, and also we need to move forward how to sustainably utilize, though the resources and other things are very important, and use the ocean as for many players, but we need to have a sustainability built in this. So under this, I think Government of India started now, you may be knowing that Deep Ocean Mission, already we have started. Under the Deep Ocean Mission, we have 6 components. Under the 6 component, one is to develop a technology for ocean, either it is resources, both living as well as non-living. So basically to develop a technology underwater and other things. And the second is the climate. So climate is basically we are only observe and understand only half of the volume of the ocean. That means only top 2000 meter we know what is happening. But actually the missing heat below the 2000 meter we are not knowing at all. So that is half of the ocean. So we need to understand that remaining half. So if we know that remaining half, then we will be able to see future direction. You all know that atmosphere, if you observe atmosphere, you can predict only few days. If you observe ocean, maybe in the top layer, you can go for medium range and seasonal time scale. But if you go deep in the ocean, the memory is available in the subsurface, so that will give about the climate in the future. So that's why we want to go below 2000 meter observation and understand that. So under this Deep Ocean Mission, one of the objective is what is the global observation, and from that we want to see the sea level projections, especially the Indian area, what will be the projections in the coming decades or centuries. And the third component is looking at the biodiversity and also the biology component of the ocean. And the fourth one is trying to understand the resource potential, non-living resource potential in the deep ocean, especially in the mid-ocean rich areas. And also the fifth one is basically try to see the energy from the ocean, like ocean thermal energy or wind energy or tidal energy, and wherever the non-conventional energy or non-renewable energy, we are trying to tap it. And the final one is mainly capacity building. So the capacity building main interest is, I think we need to have more and more collaboration between the India and Norway. So a lot more things we have to learn, and we can collaborate more and more in the capacity building in all the 5 verticals: technology, observation, understanding, and prediction. All the area we need to have a build a capacity building. I think very unique in the Deep Ocean Mission is, unlike in other governmental program, in this under Deep Ocean Mission, we can partner with any of the international community. So we can jointly work, and funding mechanism also inbuilt in this. That's the advantage. So earlier we cannot, suppose somebody, I want to do something biodiversity, which I don't have expertise. I can bring some expertise from any country. So with our money and other things. So that is, earlier it is not possible. So this is the first time we have invested that one. So it will be good to have more and more collaboration, and we can move further with whatever happened in the past. I think we can little bit, we have to jump further, and we can work towards, especially in the blue economy cooperation in the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I think now we will move to Secretary Gupta from the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. This ministry is our lead partner in the Marine Pollution Initiative, which is also dealing a lot with circular economy, as was emphasized by Mr. Vartal in his remarks, and has now run for 3 years. So we're looking forward to hearing from you what you think have worked well in our cooperation so far, and what your vision is for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and let me first apologize for being late, being the parliamentary session going on. With Norway, we've been cooperation in the area of coastal and marine pollution, particularly the marine plastic litter. And the task force which have been created, they have been working for last 3 years. In 5 projects we together. In the coastal areas for abatement of even non-plastic pollution. These have been scope for upscaling these to other coastal areas. On the issue of circular economy, we have only recently started, and we have got good technical support from Norway when we framed out our extended EPR notification, first one which has come out for plastic. But this is just the beginning of it, and in other areas we are shortly going to start these EPR regulations for other waste also. Great potential and future for extended cooperation. I'm sorry I have not prepared a written speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I think now we will move over to Dr. Narayan from CSC, which is one of our civil society partners in the Marine Pollution Initiative, and which is running a project on mainstreaming circular economy and improving waste management.
I think that has to be off first, Ambassador. Okay. So thank you, and to everyone who's joined us virtually as well. I think firstly, thank you, Ravi. It's been it's fascinating to hear you. I think the role of oceans in our world today needs to be understood, particularly from a climate perspective. And I think, I keep saying we live in a globalized world, but what we forget is our weather and our oceans are so globalized. So it's fascinating. And Gupta ji, we're part of the project that we're working with you on, and the embassy on this. So CSC's work, as you know, is more of a research, policy research, advocacy organization. Now for us, the issue of oceans is the link to land. And the fact is that our rivers and our waste that is in the oceans comes from land. And so the relationship of land to oceans, people to ocean, is really where the focus of our program together is. And for the last some years, I think a lot of developments have happened, things that we should acknowledge, things that we should celebrate. But there's also a huge road for us to walk still. The first, I think, the big issue for us in India has been the reinvention of the paradigm of waste management. And I think that's a huge contribution that civil society, government, the embassy working together, we have managed to work towards. When the solid waste rules were set up in India, they were set up as we were dealing with waste. And so the entire focus of the rules was how do you collect, how do you transport, and how do you dispose. But in the last 3 years, I think there has been a real change in the paradigm and the mindset. The entire approach today is not waste. That waste has to be treated as a resource. And if you look at the SPM 2 guidelines now that have been issued by the Ministry of Urban Affairs, each city has been asked to become a zero waste city, which means that you are really taking to the very core of policy and to the core of financing to say that we have to look at waste as a resource. We have to look at how cities segregate waste, because the only way you can turn waste into a resource is by making sure that you can segregate the waste, that you can do recovery of the material that is there, and then from that you do recycling, and that's really the nature of the circular economy that we are all talking about. So I think there has been a huge shift in policy and a huge shift in the mindset, which is big. Because I don't think this has really been the approach that many countries have followed at the beginning. The big question for us now is the implementation, the practice, and to scale up the practice. Because this is really where we are standing. I mean, even now, in spite of all the efforts that everyone is making, we know that we are dealing with very large amount of solid waste. We are still dealing with large amount of plastic. And we are dealing with, today when we are talking about air pollution in the city of Delhi, one of the new contributing factors that we are beginning to now factor in is the burning of garbage and the landfill sites going up in smoke. So it is very clear that there is a long way to go. The strategy that we adopted as part of the project, and both Gupta ji is here, the ambassador is here, and Atul is here, we are working together, is to do three things. And that's also because of CSE's core competence. It's not the only things that need to be done, but what we do best. One is to make sure that we can research the issue of the policy and to understand what needs to be done. In the area of plastic, we are still working, and we will keep working to see what more can be actually banned, phased out as single-use plastic. What more can be done to make sure that we can both minimize what cannot be recycled and then recycle what can be recycled. And then understand also the nature of recycling. Because in our world, recycling is done by very poor people in very poor conditions. So the question for us is, because that's the employment generator, we don't want people out of the recycling business, but we want conditions to improve. So that's really going to be a major area of work and research further. But clearly research is critical, because we need to understand what more needs to be done and how this can be, how policy and practice can be improved. The second part of what I think has worked the best has been really the building of capacity. It was spoken about by Ravi as well. I think the fact is, if you're talking about the shift in strategy, then we have to understand how the shift will happen, how it is being experimented and worked on in different cities of India. It's a laboratory, it's a laboratory of practice that needs to be understood, and that's where we have just collaborated with Niti Aayog to do a report on a compendium of best practices, 28 cities of India. What have they done on solid waste management? What have they done on plastic management? Which city is doing the best e-waste recycling? Which city is doing the best in segregation? Understand from the city by making sure people can travel. So it's independent work by CSE. Every city has been visited, looked at, understood, seen it from the point of view of the administration. What worked? How did they manage to do it? And this is a report that will get released on Monday, coming Monday. And our aim is to use this report to, again, as I said, build capacity. And that, I think, is a very important part of the work that we will do and continue to do. That's what we call the School of Circular Economy. And the third part of the program, which is the Zero Waste program, which is the deep dive. Because at the end of the day, you can talk in policy, but the best way to learn is by understanding the practice on the ground and seeing how you can actually make it work. We are working in two areas, Agra and Gurugram. Agra, the ambassador, and we traveled together last week. And essentially, the strategy for CSE is the same. We are not implementers. Our job is to try and understand what can be done, what can be improved, and then see how we can build on it. And it's fascinating, Gupta ji. This has been a very interesting exercise. The commissioner came back to us in the first meeting we had and said, my biggest problem is the disposal of petha waste. Now, petha is something that we take for granted in Agra. It's the sweet of Agra. And we never think about that, you know, the sweet of Agra could be leading to such a massive problem. And so we spent some time looking at it and essentially have come out with a report which actually defies, I mean, to me, when my colleagues came back, I said, is it really so simple, the solution? I mean, essentially what we found is that huge amount of petha waste is generated. For every kg of petha that you use, almost 600 grams goes as waste, which means that you're dealing with massive amounts of waste in the sweets that we eat. And the solution was very simple. Connect the petha waste generators to the gaushalas that exist. Use it as a feed for cattle. And all we did was to map where the petha waste is made and where the gaushalas are and what kind of relationship needs to be built so that one can be taken to the other. And the ambassador was there when we released the report. We gave it to the mayor. He was so excited. I mean, he instantly ordered all the action, said, you know, issue a press release, issue an ad, call a meeting with the petha guys, call the dairy people, we will sort this out. So, I mean, I think, you know, the simplicity of the circular economy, something that we can and we've been doing for years, is really the whole notion of bringing it back. And so for Agra, our whole strategy is do a plan, work with them. And I think the biggest gain that we will make in Agra, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that will happen, is we are working with the Agra municipality to change the terms of the concession agreement. Today, the concession agreement given out by every municipality incentivizes the amount of waste that is taken to a landfill site. And if you can actually, that's called the tipping fee. If you can change the nature of the concession agreement so that it is based on the amount of processing and material recovery you do, you actually change the terms of the waste management system in a city. And I think that is something that we will work towards. There is, of course, the whole issue of EPR, and we went and saw a bulk waste unit. I've seen it in other parts. There are major issues to sort out there, which we will keep working on. But we are also, I think, very excited by this whole idea that the government of India is now working on, which is landfill restoration, which is going to be a massive challenge across every city. I mean, the number of landfills we have. Now, if you can restore them and turn them back into green areas, you again are part of the climate challenge of greening your cities, creating lungs in the city. But there are major challenges there. And the big issue with landfill restoration is that if you restore the landfill, what do you do with the material that comes out? And that is something that we, you know, can easily become new mountains of waste, where you have segregated waste, which is on one hand, you know, in plastic, the other hand. So again, the question of circular economy. Where does this go? What happens to this? Can we remove GST from the management of this waste? Can you make sure that all the landfilling that happens in all the national highway projects are used, this waste is used for it? How do you make sure that you can essentially use this in benign purposes? Because what you don't want to do is to use it as fillers where people grow vegetables, for instance. So I think a very fascinating part of the work going forward is going to be this. And we also, as part of this project, have a lab, a laboratory to test. And we've just started compost testing, because the other issue is that if you're going to get people to make compost, and you want compost, you want segregated waste to make compost out of it, you also have to make sure that the compost is of good quality, because you don't want to transfer pollution from one side to the other. So how do you improve the compost quality? What do you do with it? So our state-of-the-art lab is doing testing of compost, looking at different technologies for composting and the compost that comes out of it. And obviously that will be a whole area of work. But I just want to end by saying it's a fascinating area, and we're really excited by the opportunity and the possibility of really working to find solutions, because at the end of the day for India, the issue is not sustainability, the issue is affordability. If we can find affordable solutions, they will be sustainable. So for us, the issue really will be to reinvent the waste paradigm to make it into that true circular economy, which benefits people and the planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Narayan. I think then we move over to Mr. Berman, who is representing the Norwegian company Aker Biomarine, which is contributing to India's blue economy by exporting a product that makes India's aquaculture more competitive. An example of the win-win situations that the ambassador mentioned in his speech. The floor is yours, Mr. Berman.
Good evening, everybody, and especially His Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, dignitaries on the dais. It's our pleasure and honor to be part of this very important ocean dialogue. I remember very vividly 3 years back when Her Excellency, the Prime Minister of Norway, was in India. It was the same city, at the Oberoi's Hotel, where we had this, the first, this initiation of this activity or this cooperation, and we were very much present. And that was, again, a very privilege and an honor for us to be there. Aker Biomarine, a Norwegian company, is part of a large group of companies called Aker. It's part of Aker Group. Aker Biomarine is a world's leading supplier of krill, the natural, powerful, health-promoting source of nutrients from the pristine waters of Antarctica. Our mission is to improve human and planetary health, which means very clearly, if I clarify, whatever we do, it must be done in a sustainable fashion. If we cannot do it in a sustainable fashion, or if we do something which in any way harms Mother Earth or the environment, it's better that we don't do it. That's very clear from the very top of the organization. Hence, it's not a surprise that sustainability is the strongest pillar as far as our organization is concerned. Right from the beginning, when we choose the ingredient itself, it's a very sustainable ingredient when we talk about. Krill is an ingredient, krill is an animal, or crustacean, which has twice the biomass of all the humans. It's the largest biomass on the Mother Earth, basically. So it's very, very sustainable over a period of long time. Secondly, right from the beginning, even before we started doing anything commercial, we were having partnerships with Kamalar, with WWF, and so many other sustainable global organization, from where we could first understand how are we going to do in a sustainable fashion, even before we start to do it. So while we started in sometime 2016, our activities or pre-activities regarding how do we do it in a sustainable fashion started sometime in 2004. So 3-4 years we just spent doing the partnerships, understanding how do we kind of go about doing these things, basically. We believe in a world where all access to quality nutrition, good health, without compromising the future of our planet as a very, very strong foundation of our business. The second aspect of it, first is the sustainable starting source, which is krill, and the second is how do we do it. So right from the beginning, we have a technology which is called as eco-harvesting, which is patented technology. So when we go and do the harvesting of krill in the Antarctica, we use this patented technology called eco-harvesting, through the way of which only we harvest is krill and nothing else. So there is no bycatches coming around. There is no bycatches of fish, penguins, or any other marine species which would be present there that come up. I think in the total year when we did this, and we do this with the third parties, basically, the whole assessment of what we are doing, our whole operations, I think we found only 0.01% of some small catches which would have come, basically. So it's absolutely negligible. We, right from the beginning, have been encouraging the inspectors from associations like Kamlar to be on our vessels, and we now have 3 vessels, and they are vessels which not only catch the krill, but also do the first part of processing itself. So they are floating plants in a way, basically, so that we are able to get as much freshness as possible in a sustainable fashion. Our ambition going forward, 2030, we'll reduce the CO2 emission by 50%. By 2050, it'll be zero, net zero. That's sure, and it's written out in our statements. Deploy green ammonia. That's what we've just started doing this year. That on our vessels, we deploy the green ammonia. And the other important thing that we started doing, improving or using the technology, is to reduce the fuel going to find krill. And how do we do that? We have something called as Sailor Boy. So it's a small kind of a device that goes first and tries to understand where the krill would be more, so that we are just going and targeted in that particular area, rather than going around all over the ocean and spending more fuel and you know, so on, basically. It's been our fishery right from the day one, completely certified, MSC certification, Friends of Sea certification, fishery partnerships with A grades for last 6 to 7 years. So the point that I'm trying to make is that we not only try to do our best to do it internally, but also we partner with all the sustainable certification agencies to make sure that every activity of ours is completely sustainable. In India, we came in the year of 2012 around, and with a very clear purpose to serve the Indians in two different ways. One is in the human nutrition side, where we have a product with omega-3, EPA and DHA, which is coming out of krill, which is very special because omega-3, which is found in krill, is bound to phospholipids, unlike any other source of omega-3, which is bound to triglycerides. Being bound to phospholipids, the omega-3 that you will take would be polar and would be more bioefficient. And we have documented it through various studies in various health conditions over a period of now like 15 years that it is true, absolutely. Second area, which is more in-depth and maybe more relevant in this forum, is the area of aquaculture. Now there, the krill ingredient, when it goes in a very small quantity, has been tested, studied, and found to increase the growth of the animal called shrimp. Shrimp, as we all know, is a very, very big produce from India. In fact, India is one of the largest shrimp producers in the world, the largest exporters, at least, of the shrimp in the world. And so it's a dollar revenue situation. So with the inclusion of krill meal of the range of 2.5 to 3 to 4%, in that range, very low inclusion, it's seen that the growth of the animal happens 15 to 18% better. So you are able to produce more by changing the feed for the animal shrimp, basically, by including a very small percentage of krill meal. So if you see the whole cycle, it runs like this, that we get the product which is very sustainable and also very traceable, because we only do it with Kamalar, and it's only done in Area 48 under the complete, of course, guidance of Kamalar, and as well as the quota that they provide of Kamalar and the directions that they give from Kamalar, basically. So it comes from there, and then it is benefiting the humans, and it is benefiting the aquaculture industry in a big way. We also have product which is for pets, which we don't have yet in India, but aquaculture industry in India, we have been able to support and help, especially the farmers, the aqua farmers, who are exporting the products outside pretty well. They also are able to, so this is one part of it, that it will increase the growth. The other very interesting aspect is they are able to reduce the dependence on the fish meal, basically. Now, fish meal and lots of fishes are kind of getting extinct, or they are using some material which is kind of trash, or which is coming with some pollutants, like plastics, etc. But when we compare that with the krill, you find, since it comes from pristine oceans of Antarctica, there is no pollutant inside it. We tested it for everything, PCBs, plastics, and we did all the studies and tests. It has just nothing at all in that, basically. So what the animal, which is the shrimp, which is going to be eaten by humans around the world, basically would contain is no contaminated at all in the feed. So it's sustainable, it's free of contaminants, and it's coming from a very, very sustainable source, which is krill, which is present in like huge quantities, twice the biomass of Mother Earth. Going forward, it's just started. I mean, last 2012 when we started, it took us a couple of years to get the products registered and then have some health certificate discussions along with the Indian government and the Norway government, and we could solve all that. And last around now 2.5, 3 years, we are not only servicing the bigger and medium-sized farmers, but we also have now a warehouse in Chennai, through which we are even able to go to the smaller sized, we call it the MSMEs sectors as well, so that, you know, we can extend the benefit of krill to as many and as much as possible, in terms of first going through the feed mill and then to the farmer together, basically. So that's been our story. It was very, very interesting to hear about the circular economy that you were talking about, madam. And it's just a side topic, but in Aqua Biomarine, we have a subsidiary company called EON, which started like 3 years back, roughly just before the COVID time, basically, which specializes in this circular economy. And what it does right now is that it takes, so when we are harvesting, we are using the nets to catch, to harvest the krill. So those nets, not only from us, from others as well, which are of plastics and things, that will go in that circular economy company called EON. They get recirculated, and now we have started to distribute them to as trays and baskets to even the stores, the local grocery stores in Norway. In Oslo, you could find a couple of them that would be using the EON circular economy. Even McDonald's, I think the last one was McDonald's in Oslo, sir. For they were using this circular economy trays and baskets for the servicing, basically. So it's been a journey for us, which is fascinating as well as fulfilling, but completely at all points of time taking our main thing called sustainability into the picture. We here in India on a basis, of course, we set up an office in Mumbai, a local subsidiary company in Mumbai, so that we remain here and service the country for a very, very long period of time from a very close quarter, rather than from a distant from Norway or understanding it from a remote place. And like I said, we have a warehouse as well, so that we are able to service even the smallest of the MSMEs, basically, from our side. So these have some of been our endeavors. We look forward much more closely to work together, even with the government, in terms of how we can work together to see how to pass on the benefits of this particular very unique, interesting, sustainable, nutrient ingredient to the Indian population, to the India here, and we see how we go about it. That's from our side.
Thank you, sir. Now we will move to comments from other participants at the roundtable. We also have an opportunity for people watching online to ask questions. Then you put them in the chat box, and my colleague will read them out loud. Anyone at the roundtable who want to take the floor? Maybe I can challenge Mr. Atul Bagai from UNEP India.
Thanks a lot, and I would first like to thank the Norwegian Embassy for inviting UNEP for this very important celebration. And it's also a very good opportunity to take stock of what has happened in 3 years. And I was listening to all the previous speakers with so much of interest in terms of the breadth of activities that have started in the country under this initiative. And we are very proud to be part of this work right from the beginning. I'm thankful to the Ministry of Environment also, and also to Ratan Vatalji for having included UNEP in the scheme of things as part of the Norwegian-India government collaboration. I was listening to all the interventions and amazing ideas and activities that are on the table, and I was just trying to think of what are those 2 very big takeaways from this over the last 3 years, and what we should focus on in the coming few years in terms of the overall impact of this amazing initiative. And I was just thinking that while we are talking of blue economy, that should be the one focus area. There should be a focus on the green earth, the land resources and the land sources that are leading to the kind of problems in the ocean. So I think some land-based work that Sunita ji was talking about so passionately should be at a strategic level an area of interest in the coming years. And while waste getting into the oceans is just one of the issues from the land-based problems that are coming down to the oceans, there are so many other areas which need to be looked at on the land. For it could be the kind of food we consume from the oceans. We're making oceans probably unsustainable because of the demands that we are putting on the oceans. And you mentioned that very succinctly. Secretary Earth Sciences also mentioned a lot of those issues that need to be understood in that level. So I think at the land level, the waste and food are 2 very important areas, not to talk of the urbanization that's going on the coastlines and which will impact on the oceans. And I think another very big takeaway from this would be some of the technological solutions that Norway has brought on the table. Meaning I see also some of our technology partners who are present here. Tomra is one of them. And I think at the land-based sources, if we can bring in some of these technology solutions, it will minimize the impact on the ocean. And I think that would be a very useful thing. And coming to the second part, which is the ocean part, the blue economy part, which is the main focus of this cooperation. I think what Secretary Earth Sciences mentioned is certainly something that needs to be looked at very, very closely. And also in terms of some activities which are needed also in the deep ocean side. But I was also thinking that oceans are, they have international boundaries also, and it probably would need this initiative, and that's where India could take a leadership role of how other countries in Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean, and Bay of Bengal could be partners in this whole initiative. And I think, I know there are many detractors of multilateralism, but having being representative of a multilateral organization, I think there's still some benefit in having this kind of an intergovernmental kind of a structure for the South Asia seas. And this is something I raised in the task force also. And I think that could be a very big outcome of this Norwegian-India cooperation, and that will also show India's leadership in taking these countries together on my final point, which I just wanted to highlight, and there's a lot of talk on circular economy and resource efficiency, and Ratan Vatalji has been leading this in the Niti Aayog, and right now there are 17 sectors that are being looked in as deep dive, and the Ministry of Environment has now a very well-developed resource efficiency policy, and the Secretary is also here. There is a need, what Sunita ji talked about, capacity building, and we are as part of our green economy program with UNITAR, looking at opportunities of setting up a circular economy center of excellence in India with an institution which may be interested in this. And we're just doing the pre-feasibility study, we are launching that. And I think if that study could include what Sunita ji was talking about, both land-based and ocean-based capacity building issues, that could be a very useful thing to move forward. But finally, thanks a lot, Ambassador. Thanks a lot, Secretary Ratanji, for including UNEP in this very interesting discussions.
Thank you, sir, for those remarks. Maybe I could challenge Tomra to take the next comment, since you were also mentioned by Mr. Atul Bagai. Thank you.
Good evening to all. A very thanks to Norwegian Embassy for organizing this session. And thank you, Mr. Bagai, for giving reference to Tomra. Well, this is basically the point which I would like to emphasize from Tomra's side, that yes, we do have technologies which have direct bearing on what Ms. Narayan highlighted, the land-based source of the pollution. And if they are properly implemented and integrated with the system, they can definitely bring in a lot of the value. But more than that, I believe Tomra in last few years have moved to a level or a recognition wherein we would like to portray ourselves more as a solution provider and not just purely as a technology provider. And when I say that, I say that we have started working in the domain of supporting the governments, the stakeholders on designing the best-in-class policies to resolve the issues around circular economy, and more specifically is around the extended producer responsibility. And let me congratulate you, Mr. Gupta, for coming up with extremely ambitious and progressive EPR notification on 6th of October. I will share a very recent instance. I was in Dubai with our global team, wherein we were talking about the EPR frameworks across the world, and I presented the draft notification which Ministry has published. Trust me, everybody was impressed with the kind of approach Government of India has taken in terms of coming up with the recycling targets, collection targets, and even the reuse target for for your rigid plastic. So that is definitely an area wherein Tomra, as a knowledge provider, as a solution provider, can come in and help the Government of India in terms of coming up with the solution, how it can be implemented, because the enforcement is where the key lies and not just purely the framework. More than that, if I talk about our technological solution, which Mr. Bagai was referring, we have two particular domains wherein we can support the circular economy transition for India in a big way. One, of course, is the sorting solution, wherein material recovery facilities is an area which can bring in a lot of value. And fortunately, Prime Minister Modi also referred the modernized material recovery facilities in his latest speech on 1st of October in terms of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan 2. So that is where the Tomra's technology are positioned in a manner wherein we can deal with much bigger waste in a shorter span and giving the consistency of the quality which is required to promote the high-end recycling, which again is a big challenge, because the majority of the waste which gets sorted is actually being downcycled, which is not supporting the cause of circular economy. And that's where the material recovery facilities can bring in the value. And last but not the least, deposit refund system is an EPR tool, which is one of the most successful tool globally. And I think Norwegian infinitum model of deposit is again a benchmark, which is maintaining a collection rate of 92% for the beverage containers. So there is a lot of knowledge which global know-how, especially from the Norway and the larger European Union exists. We as a company would be ready to support in whatever possible manner to the Government of India, and under the bilateral wherein it can contribute towards reduction of the marine litter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We're slowly running out of time and getting ready for dinner, but if any other participant wants to do a quick remark, or if Mr. Vatal or the ambassador would like to offer any concluding remarks, then the floor is yours on a first-come, first-served basis. Otherwise, I can move to a summary, unless one of my colleagues, either Mr. Flolu from Mumbai or Mr. Karta from Innovation Norway, Mr. Karta is ready. Okay, final remarks to you.
Thank you, Karina. And
I echo a lot of the things that have been said. For me, as a commercial counselor, my goal and my responsibility is to facilitate cooperation and collaboration between Indian and Norwegian companies and businesses. And very happy to see how we, through this bilateral cooperation, also very much emphasize the importance of business collaboration. That is something that adds more momentum to this bilateral cooperation, and very happy to and very fortunate to have companies like Aquaculture and Tomra with us today that show concrete examples of these win-win situations. So my only comment would be to continue the good work. I think that the task force has built a very good foundation despite COVID and difficult times. I think that the task force has achieved a lot and built a very strong foundation for scaling this collaboration between Norway and India. So with that, I wish you all good luck and look forward to the rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Then I think I will attempt a super brief summary of our discussions, but without doing it justice. Or perhaps the ambassador would like to go first.
Short remark at the end, because I would like to again thank Ratan Wattal for the work he has done, chairing the task force on blue economy, and also thanking him for challenging us on several other areas where to move forward on this cooperation, taking note of the areas where we do have cooperation, like in the maritime sector, where we can be developed further, and the marine sector. So we'll bring that with us, and I'm also looking forward to discuss that in other formats in the coming time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Just to summarize quickly before I give the floor to our Consul General from Mumbai, who will give the vote of thanks. I think our discussions today have highlighted many of the great results that we've achieved over the last 3 years. I think there has been agreement that there is a good structure for bilateral cooperation in place, and that it's working well for both parties. And that we have reaffirmed our partnership here today, that we have managed to keep alive during a very difficult COVID period, and that will hopefully have even more activity next year when we can finally, knock on wood, travel more between countries and have more political exchanges again. I'm not jinxing it, but fingers crossed. Then I think on the thematic areas that we have covered, climate change came out very strongly from several of the interventions that we've heard today. I think going forwards, maybe we can look at how we can strengthen even more the climate change dimension of our ocean cooperation. And also circular economy coming as of course, something we're already working on, but that is absolutely key to everything that we do, and that we should look at strengthening over the next couple of years. Not to forget any of the other topics here today, but I think those 2 topics came out very strongly. And then it's only for me to say thank you very much, and to give the floor to Mr. Arnian Flølu, who will give the vote of thanks before we say goodbye to our online guests. Or Manu wants to say something?
There is an online question.
Ah, an online question. Perfect. Sorry.
And I'm sorry, I managed to wave at you only after you give the summary. It's from a user from a consultant company in Gurgaon, who says it's exciting to learn about the krill that was mentioned, and are there any plans to use marine flora as well?
Then we let Mr. Baumann answer that question, and then we go to the vote of thanks.
Thank you.
Think that we do it in a very, very sustainable fashion. support and help with krill itself, both the human as well as the animal nutrition side, basically. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to our online viewers. We hope to welcome all of them to come to the embassy next year for a hopefully COVID-free reception. Then I think the floor is yours, Mr. Anjan Flølu, who is our Consul General in Mumbai.
Thank you. I've been invited to give a vote of thanks on behalf of Team Norway to all of you for sort of your inputs and for your participation here today, but also for the work and the efforts that you put in every day to drive this partnership forwards. It's been highlighted that it is, I mean, we celebrate a blue partnership, and it was said that it's really a genuine partnership. And I think it has been highlighted here today how much our economies, I mean, how much we share and how much our economies are linked to the oceans. And the ocean is not only vital for our economies, it is vital for the climate and for the environment. And in many ways, I feel that everything starts and ends with the oceans, in a way. The resources we take from it, and also the ocean's role in the transport and so on. So the oceans are really key to our climate and environment and our lives. I think it has been, I'd like to thank you also for you know, highlighting how successful this has been. And I think part of this success, in my view, is also that it brings together the relevant stakeholders. You know, the governmental stakeholders, the research institutions and other knowledge partners, and the companies and the technology providers. I think this is a very important formula for success. And I think, Mr. Ratan Watal, you summed it up in a way to say that it's we found a successful template for bilateral cooperation. And I couldn't agree more with you. And I think that sums it up. And I would also like to thank everybody for the inputs on the way forward, which we got very many clues on how we should proceed. And I think, and also my colleague Christian Carter, you mentioned technology, and I think you know, technology is a key word. Green technology certainly is a very key word. We have green shipping, green ports, port cooperation has been mentioned. We have also renewable energy and new propulsion systems in the transport at the oceans. So I think that is going to be key going forwards. It's also been highlighted the importance of waste management and circular economy, and everything is connected. And we also come back to technology and innovation also there. So I think that is sort of tying all the knots together. So we do a lot of, to thank you for, again, for all the good things that you do. We have also heard that we need, whatever good things we do, we need to scale it up. You know, it's imperative that we scale it up due to the commitments, but also due to the urgency of addressing the health of the oceans and our climate and environment. So I think I'd like to sort of end where I started my vote of thanks, to acknowledge sort of how vital this partnership is and how important it is that we continue to work together and build on what we have done. And I would like to end my vote of thanks to say that on behalf of Team Norway here in India, that we are very committed to continue to engage with all of you and to continue to do whatever we can to support this endeavor and this partnership going forwards. Many thanks.
Everyone, then we move to dinner at the residence.
Thank you.